What's going on, Pixel Hackers? Christian Lovrecich from PixlFeed here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to exit the learning phase when it comes to Facebook ads in 2021. But before we get started, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive right in. All right, so let's talk about the learning phase with Facebook ads. You guys have been asking about it. Tons of questions in the groups, in the comments. So I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to explain the foundation of how the learning phase works with Facebook. And I'm going to show you what causes it. And I'm going to show you how you can exit the learning phase the fastest for better performance when it comes to your ads. So let's understand the foundation of the learning phase. So as you can see here, and the link will be in the description from Facebook. This is straight from Facebook. Each time an ad is shown, our ads delivery system learns more about the best people and places to show the ad. The more an ad is shown, the better the delivery system becomes at optimizing the ad's performance. The learning phase is the period when the delivery system still has a lot to learn about an ad set. During the learning phase, the delivery system is exploring the best way to deliver your ad set. So performance is less stable and cost per action is usually worse. The learning phase occurs when you create a new ad or ad set or make a significant edit to an existing one, okay? The delivery column reads learning when an ad set is in the learning phase. While the delivery system never stops learning about the best way to deliver an ad sets exit the learning phase as soon as performance stabilizes, usually after around 50 optimization events since the last significant edit. That last part is very, very important. So what does this mean? This means essentially you need to get 50 objectives in order to exit the learning phase and for Facebook to stabilize. Any changes that you make to the ad set or certain changes that you make to the campaign ad set or ad at the ad level can cause the campaign to go back into the learning phase, and you want to avoid that. So basically the system is looking for the lowest hanging fruit in order to deliver your ads who are most likely to convert on the objective that you're asking Facebook to do. So there's many ways you can exit this phase as soon as possible. And there's many factors that come into play into throwing your campaign ad sets and ads back into the learning phase. So let's go to the whiteboard and I'm going to break it all down for you. And I'm going to show you how to exit as quick as possible. So first, let's talk about how to exit the learning phase as quickly as possible. And in order to do that, it just comes down to simple math and knowing how to use your data to your advantage, okay? So as we mentioned previously, you need 50 conversions or whatever your objective is in less than 7 days in order to exit the learning phase, okay? So it comes down to simple math if you really think about it. So let's say you're trying to optimize for purchases, right? And your CPA, your cost per acquisition, is $10. So we know that every time for us to get a sale, we have to spend $10. Now we got to do the math. Well, how much do we need to spend to get those 50 conversions? Again, simple math. So if I need 50 conversions and my CPA is 10, then I know I need to spend $500 every 7 days in order to stay out of the learning phase. So how do we do that? Well, if you're in a new account, the one thing that you want to do is you want to consolidate your audiences, right? You want to stack your audiences. So let's say if you're starting with interest, stack them together. Let's say you're targeting, I don't know, pet owners. So grab your group of pet stores and clump them together as a grouped stacked interest. I know sometimes you guys want to go and do single ad sets with one single broad so you can make out to whatever your best converting interests are. But if you're starting out on a brand new account, you want to clump them together to exit that learning phase as quickly as possible if you have a low budget. If you have the budget to spend and you know you can spend it, then by all means, feel free to use single broad if you want to see which interest works best. But as of lately, I'm seeing that if you group everything together, Facebook's performing a lot better, especially after iOS 14. So keep that in mind. So that's one way to do it. Let's say you have an established account and you're having a hard time exiting the learning phase. Well, let's look at our data. All right. Is it hard for me to get purchases, right? With interest. So could I use my lookalikes? right? Is the lookalike data going to be better than single interest? Well, it depends. If I'm using my purchase LLAs, let's say 1%, I mean, the way it should be better data than interest. But depending on how Facebook's feeling that week, it might not be, but test it. I would say so. I would say you have a better chance of exiting the learning phase if you're using your lookalikes, right? Whether it's purchase or people from your email list. If it's post iOS 14, use the people sync Klaviyo with your Facebook ads, or upload the customers list and use that list to create some lookalikes, because that's going to be the most perfect data that you can get nowadays. So that should help you to exit the learning phase better, right? If you want to try, let's say, 4 different types of interest stacks, then create a CBO and see what happens when you deploy the budget. So if you know that your CPA is 10, set the CBO at 500 and create only 2 ad sets or 4 ad sets. Don't go too crazy with it. And then let Facebook do its thing, right? If the purchase is not doing it, it's a brand new account, then start with your view content. Start with your add to carts, right? Start getting that data going. I'm a big believer that if you want purchases, start with purchases. And I'd rather spend that money up front to get the best data possible than start with view content just to exit the learning phase. I have ad sets that have never exited the learning phase just because I don't touch them once they're going. So what do you do if I wanna keep testing? Well, that's what I'm gonna get into next. Because if you deploy something and you don't want, let's say you get out of the learning phase, how can you keep testing without going back into the learning phase? So let's go over on what causes Facebook to go back into the learning phase. So let me make a little chart for you guys. So we have the campaign level, the ad set level, and the ad level. So I'm gonna tell you guys what edits will cause the campaign to go back into the learning phase. So at the campaign level, when you're at the campaign level, if you do any of the following, if you touch the budget, if it's a CBO, and you touch the budget by more than 20%, boom, back to the learning phase. If you change your bid strategy, let's say from manual to automatic, the campaign level when you're doing CBO, back to the learning phase. If you change your bid amount as well, it's going to send it back into the learning phase. So if you bid amount, it's obviously the amount of the bid you want to do manual. The bid strategy, it's like, are you doing cost cap? Are you doing bid cap? That will cause it to reset back to the learning phase. So you don't want to touch any of that once it's going. At the ad set level, there's more things that will cause it to happen. If you touch your targeting, boom, back to the learning phase. If you touch your optimization, add to cart, purchase, view content, any of that, it will set it back to the learning phase. If you change your bid strategy, same thing, right? Cost cap, bid cap, boom, back to the learning phase. You change your bid amount, back to the learning phase. If you touch the budget at all, boom, back to the learning phase, right? I think on this one, it might be 20% or at all. I can't remember the top of my head, but I want to say if you touch it, 20%, it more than 20% sends it back to the learning phase. If you pause, this is very important. If you pause the ad set for more than 7 days, it loses optimization and then it goes back to the learning phase. So that's the ad set level. At the ad level, this is not the one that you guys want to hear. Guess what? If you add a new creative, let's say you're running 1 or 2 creatives and you want to throw a new creatives in there to test. Guess what? As soon as you do that, boom, back to the learning phase. And very important at the ad level, because people don't believe this. If you touch anything at all at the ad level, you want to switch your UTM tag, guess what? Back to the learning phase. You want to mess with your copy because you have a typo, back to the learning phase. And on top of that, if you have social proof, guess what? You lose all that social proof. So I don't suggest it. So this is everything. Basically any change at the ad level is going to set it back to the learning phase. So if I want to make some changes and I don't want to risk having my campaign or my ad set going in the learning phase, how do I deal with it? Well, if it's a CBO, I'm going to duplicate the whole CBO. I'm going to make the necessary changes that I want. Let's say I want to double the budget. I'm going to start fresh. Double the budget, boom, go. Always leave the original alone if it's working, if it's outside the learning phase, unless you want to play with the surf the budget. We call it surfing the budget up and down. You can surf the budget by 20% and it won't affect it at all. Let's say you want to change something to the ad set and you're not doing CBO, you're just doing ABO, ad set budget optimization. Then leave the original alone if it's out of the learning phase and it's performing well. I mean, you can play with the budget if you need to, but if you want to try something else like a different objective or different targeting, or you want to tweak the targeting, grab that sucker, duplicate, and make the changes to the new one. And it should perform the same. Now, with Facebook after iOS 14, it's kind of touchy. So if you duplicate it, it might hit, it might not. So I always suggest to people, do 3 copies and see which one hits. That's a safe number to do. But that's how I work on exiting the learning phase as fast as possible. By doing the math, spending as much money as I can as fast as I can. If I don't have the luxury of spending as much money as I can as fast as I can, then I simplify my account and I put everything together as much as I can with high value audiences. I hope this helps you guys. I hope you guys now understand how the learning phase works, how to exit the learning phase in the quickest way possible, and what not to touch so you don't go back into the learning phase. If you guys have any questions, make sure to ask them in the group. Link is down in the comments. Or if you have any questions here on YouTube, just ask me in the comments. I'll be more than happy to answer you guys. And if you guys want to keep learning about Facebook ads and digital marketing in general, watch one of the videos right above me, and I will see you guys in the next video.